Hi Year 9s, this is your end of summer term assessment 1 review video, and what we're going to do is we're going to be going through the answers to the questions for anyone that's joining us on the channel. These are typical questions that I would expect Year 9 Cambridge iGCSE chemistry students to be able to complete at the end, or by the end I should say, of their first year. So we'll go through this quite rapidly. And what I need to do is I need to make sure that I cover all of the questions, all of the answers in the questions, but at the same time I also need to make sure that I give a little bit of explanation about the reasoning behind why each of the marks are given for the answers that I present. First question, in which of these are the particles close together but free to move past each other? The answer was a liquid, so the answer is C, drink. Question number 2, if there were fewer particles in the second box, I would be tempted to put sublimation as the answer, but the particles are not far apart from each other. It's a dubious question, but the answer that we went for in the end was melting. Question number 3, we've actually got part of the graph which represents the period of time as the metal is melting. Now it starts off as a solid, so here we actually have the solid warming up, then you've got the solid melting. Whenever you have the leveling of temperature, that's a temperature change, state change. That's a state change. And then you've actually got the liquid. Once all of the solid has melted, the liquid starts to warm up, and then you've got the liquid starting to turn into the vapor as per the question. So which part of the graph represents the period of time when the metal is melting? The answer is B. Next question, diffusion is shown in B. All of the other ones produce a different product from what you actually start off with. Next question was an experiment that we did in class. The next step was to filter the mixture. Okay, so this was a chromatography one that got quite a few people. You've got one red colour, which is in suite 1, another red dye, which is in suite 2. In suite 3, you've actually got both of those 2 red dyes. So you've got one and then the other. You know that it's identical because of the distances that the colours have travelled. And the actual chromatography has been done on the same sheet, so it's the same time. So the answer to the question, how many different red dyes were present in the orange suites, the answer is 2. Krusty the Clown needed to select apparatus D, which was simple distillation. If you chose C, you would get rid and lose all of your water. Question number 8, the nucleon number was part of the question, but it was a red herring. It was there to fool you into thinking that you needed to go for A or D. But the right answer was C. The number of electrons on the inner shell, the inner orbit, is given first. And you need to identify the atomic number. 5 also gives you the number of electrons. Question number 9, a chart that I've got you to copy down and memorize and gave you a quiz. The correct row is B. Protons are positive, electrons are negative. You would find nonmetals on the right-hand side of the periodic table. The staircase on the right-hand side of this periodic table over here has C underneath it. So C would not be the right choice to make. The correct answer would be B. When being asked to give differences at GCSE, you need to be able to give precise differences, especially when numbers are concerned. So the first part of this question was, what do you understand by the term isotope? The answer is it's atoms of the same element with the same number of protons but a different number of neutrons. And the second part of this question, where it says explain the difference between 32s and 34s, you need to highlight that there was a difference of 2 neutrons. So how you did this was your choice. You could say that 32s has 2 less neutrons than 34s, or you could say that 34s has 2 more neutrons than 32s. Which 2 elements have 2 electrons in their outside orbit? So the ones that people forgot about were helium. Helium is at the top. It's at the top period. It's got 2 electrons on the outer shell. The electrons that are in the elements of group 2 all have 2 electrons in their outer shell. So the answer was helium and magnesium. Next question, how do metals form their ions? They lose their outer electrons. The definition of an alloy is a mixture of a metal with another substance, but that other substance is more often than not a metal itself. You also needed to highlight that the substances that are used to form an alloy are elements themselves. So it's a mixture of a metal with another substance or another element, and that other element is usually a metal. 6 electrons on the outer shell of the next atom, and you needed to make sure that you followed the hint. Periodic table is given below this question to help you express your answer as the correct Roman numeral. So it was 6, but you needed to give that answer as a capital V and a capital I. Rewrite this equation as a word equation. Don't put HCl as hydrogen chloride and don't put H2S as hydrogen sulfate. The correct answer is calcium chloride plus sulfuric acid reacts to form calcium sulfate plus hydrochloric acid. It's HCl in aqueous, so that is hydrochloric acid. H2SO4 aqueous is sulfuric acid. This relates back to the topic of acids that we covered this year. Which of the following diagram show the molecules of this gas NaCl? Pretty much everyone got choice D, which was the correct answer. Symbol equation that is correct for the reaction is B. Zn plus 2HCl reacts to form ZnCl2 plus H2. Those of you who learned your ions were able to do this with ease. Why does element Z not react with oxygen? The reason why is because it is an unreactive noble gas which has a full and stable electron configuration. It doesn't want to lose electrons, it doesn't want to gain electrons. The type of oxides that each of elements X and Y would form, well, X would form an acidic oxide, which was a topic that we learnt at the beginning of distance learning. Y could actually be an amphoteric oxide or a basic oxide, so both of those answers were acceptable. So the next question needed to be a balanced chemical equation. There was 1 mark that I gave for it being balanced and the other one for the correct formula. 2Na plus 2H2O reacts to form 2NaOH plus H2. That's the equation for the reaction of sodium with water. I had to reject answers in the next question with sodium reacting with water. Reject answers indicating it ignites or bursts into flames. People were misinterpreting the question itself, where it says sodium reacts very violently with water. This is an actual question. It's based on an actual question, so the language is important, but you also need to know what the reaction is itself. It's not something that you can just read and guess. Any sensible suggestions like rapid fizzing, floating, forms a ball, moves rapidly across the surface, all of those, and it must be an observation. So you can't just say, what would you observe? You can't just say it produces. That's not something that you can actually observe. You can't observe that it produces sodium hydroxide, even though you're correct in saying that that is actually what forms. You can't actually say that that is an observation. It's not what you see. For the next question, people lost marks because they only put one process that produces carbon dioxide. Respiration, heating limestone, and burning coal all produce carbon dioxide. You needed all 3 down in your answer for the correct mark, so be allocated to you. This was possibly the trickiest question in the exam because it really relied on you having memorized the actual balanced symbol equation, which you do need to memorize for the top marks. You needed to recall that in the exam. So flue gas desulfurization, that's the removal of sulfur dioxide from waste gases of the power station, not just sulfur, it's sulfur dioxide that it removes because there's no sulfur coming through, it's sulfur dioxide from waste gases of a power station in the chimney, in the flue. And the equation that you must have state symbols, and it is CaOH2 as a solid, that's your slate line, and then you've got CaOH2 plus SO2 as a gas, that's the sulfur dioxide coming through, reacts to form CaSO3 plus H2O, which is a liquid. Must have state symbols there. And finally, one of the substances that added to limestone to make cement, clay, gypsum, or hydrated calcium sulfate. All 3 of those answers were acceptable answers. And that's it. That takes us through to the end of the chemistry end of term assessment. Thank you very much for watching. Now you can go Year 9 and do your quiz and questionnaire. Thanks very much for watching. Stay safe and bye for now.